We saw yesterday where Donald Trump was joined by Tennessee Governor Bill Lee, along with the state's two Republican senators, Marsha Blackburn and Bill Hagerty. And in that Oval Office press conference, Trump announced he'd be sending National Guard troops into the city of Memphis to intervene and help reduce crime there. It's only a matter of time, I believe, now until similar orders are given for the city of Charlotte, possibly even in Atlanta. Those are two blue dots in mostly red states. And the reason I mentioned Charlotte, in case you forgot, because of all the craziness from last week, is that Charlotte had that recent case of the woman who was stabbed to death on the train. Now, here's where this whole dynamic gets interesting, and that is Republicans used to be about small government, reducing government intervention and regulation, but when it comes to crime, Republicans have now become big government when it comes to combating crime. So both Republicans and Democrats say they want big government, but Democrats don't want big government when it comes to crime reduction via federal intervention, via the National Guard. The reason this is important is because there's going to be a very hot race in North Carolina for the open U.S. Senate seat. That's considered, of the Senate seats that are open, there's three toss-ups. North Carolina is one of them, Georgia's the other, and Michigan's the other. So North Carolina has Roy Cooper, the former governor. He's running on the Democratic side and is the odds-on favorite to obviously win the Democratic primary. He's going to go in there with this building perception that big cities, not only in North Carolina, but across the Southeast and the rest of the nation, aren't safe. And that's, whether that's fair or not, they can cite statistics a million ways, but the bottom line is we're at a point now where, voters on the right don't feel safe entering big cities because of the soft on crime leadership that they, are aware of and see, along with some of these violent crime headlines, like that poor woman who was stabbed in Charlotte. And, I've seen some memes posted by voters on the left that complain about Trump sending troops into Washington, D.C., and there's even a political cartoon that shows Trump, standing over a map with a map in the background, and he's pointing to D.C. and yelling, and in this leftist political cartoon, it shows all these red states and says, higher murder rates. But see, here's the problem with that, and it lacks very important context, and context is very important, especially these days. And that's the fact that in each of these southern states, the overall murder rate of those states is skewed because of the numbers of murders in blue cities and counties. So not only are city mayors and the police chiefs that they appoint typically soft on crime, but when you get to the county level, now you've got very far left district attorneys who take a hands-off, soft on crime approach. In a lot of these counties, if not all of them, where you have liberal elected leadership all across the board. And if you don't believe me, I'm in Orlando, a blue dot in Florida, and what I'm telling you is no exaggeration. There was a serial killer here who didn't just kill multiple people, was how he did it in cold blood. He shot his pregnant girlfriend, and he shot a female police officer in the middle of the day in front of a local Walmart here. He was completely cold-blooded, had no regard for human life whatsoever. The district attorney in this area vowed she would not seek the death penalty. She did a political grandstand over it. And her successor was just as bad, to the point where the governor basically had to say, okay, you're out of here. We're putting in someone who's not going to come in and make it a political, campaign platform that they're going to be soft on killers. And there are literally, in some of these districts, you'll see in the race for district attorney, depending on how the state handles it, some states, have that as an election, and where they're going up against, other candidates, they'll even brag about how they're not going to pursue certain types of crime, and they're not going to pursue the death penalty. So when you see Roy Cooper and his ultimate Republican opponent debate this crime issue, one thing you can expect to see is Cooper is going to portray the National Guard as a threat, as federal overreach and a form of fascism. And on either side, the Republican will say that, soft on crime tactics have made the big cities unsafe. And they're both going to have to persuade not only their side but independent voters in North Carolina that their approach is the best solution. I don't know who will win that Senate seat. Carolina Democrats probably like their odds to flip that seat because of Cooper's experience in campaigns there. He's a 2-term successful Democratic governor, and he won both of those gubernatorial races despite the fact that Republicans won the Senate seats in those cycles and Trump won. So North Carolina is probably the most difficult state to predict. If you like my straightforward, calm analysis of politics and where we are, and you're sick of all the screaming voices, I just ask you to please hit the subscribe button to help me grow this channel. Thanks.